Isaac, and a lot of people call me Ike, Cohen. My rank was SK2SS. Anyway, so here you go. You're in that time frame. You got the Cold War and the end of the Vietnam War going on at the same time. That's two wars. That is not, simply put, simple. It is just two crazy wars. One was Vietnam, and people didn't like it. They hated it. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm thinking to myself, you know, people don't realize what that Cold War meant. And I was saying on the boat today that had it not been for the way our country took control of those submarines with the FBMs and said, you know, we gotta make sure we always ahead of the Russians because they were after us, and that was anything simple. Your guys, like now, and I don't know if your father remembers much, but when you think about what was going on there, it was like cat and mouse all the time. You know, they were trying to. We weren't as much involved with the Russians, but partially we had our maneuvers. I don't know for sure, and I couldn't tell you if I did, but there was a lot of games going on, and I mean crazy games, accidents and stuff like that, and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, but that was all under the water, and who could find who? It was a matter of fact. It was a matter of that. If we had a war, each one of us can unleash so much power that the whole world would be destroyed. And that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So we had to make sure we were ahead of them, not to let them get that position. And if you think about history, you look at it and you say to yourself, damn, we did good about that because it didn't happen. And this is scarier than it was with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Because what happened there was, back in '62, the Russians were trying to build up Cuba to be so close that they could attack us. So when you think about that, it was, you know, they were doing it. So we got threatened, and we took control of that situation in a way we said, you can't do this anymore. But to give you a little insight about our submarines, the type of submarines that were involved were not, the FBMs were out there. The FBMs are the ones with the Fleet Ballistic Missile submarines that had 16 missiles that were more powerful than they could knock out quite a few countries, big time. But that was not who were there. The ones that submarines were involved in that situation was like the Clamagore with the nuclear tipped torpedoes. So a nuclear tipped torpedo, what that could wipe out is about 20 miles of area, whatever's there. And those were the submarines that were in the area at the time. So if you think about it, the reason why I brought that up is because everybody thought that was World War III. But World War III was really brewing in the Cold War, because that was power that was out there at the time was a lot more than the power that was in there. But that was a crisis that everybody knew about. Where were you when this was going on? So, and I remember that, but I wasn't involved with submarines yet. But I found this out later by reading and this and that. So, if you know history, you know that this was a crazy situation with the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, people here, you know, they don't realize what that was. That was bad. That was really bad, and it came close to war. But the Russians knew that we were challenging them to say, do not do this thing. And I'm being nice, more or less. Kennedy and them really stood their ground and said, you're not getting away with this. You are not getting away with this. And we challenged them. And they finally backed out. But we made a deal too. We got out of Turkey, I think it was, that they didn't what they want. So it wasn't simple. You know, we gave something back. Big time. Now think back to the future, and 10 years later, roughly when I was in, was a different ball game. Now we're in Vietnam, getting involved like that was a crazy war, and you know, a lot of people started realizing why we there. You know, the idea was you don't want to have communism taking over the country. You know, and I want you to understand something, that socialism seems like it's okay, but what happens with socialism is that people are given everything and they're not really working for it. So when they don't do that, they feel like they have to have it. And when they don't have it, if something goes wrong, it changes everything. If you look what's going on with Russia and China, these people control their countries with communism, which is similar to socialism. And these people are oppressed, not like us. No country in the world has the freedom we have. And we have it because of what we did. So going back to the Russian situation, and I'm trying to think this out, you know, this is tough because it was very complicated because the Russians were challenged. They were going as fast as we were, but what their problem was they weren't building the subs that we did as good as we did. We made a huge difference. And because of the submarines, the FBMs particularly, at that time, had those missiles. And I don't know if you know what kind of horsepower they had. I mean, they could wipe out, 2 or 3 of them could probably wipe out most of the world. 2 or 3 of them. And they were on patrol all the time. At the time I was in, it was, our function was going downhill because the diesel boats were getting phased out. So they needed somebody to be there. That's why I got bounced around so many times. So when you think about it, we were getting phased out, but where it was going was the fast attacks. Fast attacks are the ones that go around searching and destroy. But the FBMs are the ones that control the world, you know? And the fact that happening, the Russians were scared because they tried to keep up with us, but they couldn't. So this whole time frame, we were playing this big cat and mouse game. And we were involved with some of that. One incident that I remember for sure, we had I don't know who we were maneuvering with, but we had dummy torpedoes in our tubes, and when we fired torpedoes, actually fired them, they were dummy heads. One day, boom, we got hit by a torpedo, a dummy torpedo, that dented the side of the boat. Unbelievable. Kind of scary in a way, but you know,